I found out I was adopted at my wedding, then learned I married my brother. One drunken comment shattered my life minutes after the cake was cut. By sundown, I was barefoot, sobbing in a motel, gripping a DNA test and a mysterious letter that hinted the nightmare wasn't over. Before we continue, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This will greatly help me with promotion. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kara, and 5 days ago I found out I was adopted. At my wedding reception. Right after the cake cutting. Right after I kissed my new husband in front of 130 guests, and felt like the happiest woman alive. You ever feel your heart stop? Like actually stop, like your body's suddenly made of cement, and your blood's turned to ice water? That was me, standing in a sparkly white gown, gripping a glass of champagne, when my new father-in-law got drunk enough to blurt out, "Well, at least she's not technically your cousin, right?" Yeah. I heard it too. It got quiet, like movie quiet. Like somebody hit mute. And then my husband, Eli, laughed awkwardly and said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" His dad, Mitch, blinked. Realized everyone was staring. Realized he'd said the quiet part out loud. And then he doubled down. "I mean, I'm just saying, it's good they kept it a secret this long. She turned out great, really. Sweet kid. Solid genes, even if they're not yours, per SC." And that was the moment my mother, rushed over and yanked me away from the crowd with a look that said everything I didn't want to hear. We locked ourselves in the bridal suite, while I sobbed and screamed, mascara streaking down my face like I was in some kind of soap opera. She finally admitted it. I was adopted. Closed adoption. They never meant to tell me. And it just so happened that my birth mother's last name was Delaney. Eli's mom's maiden name. I looked up at her through my fake eyelashes and asked one question. "Did you know?" And she hesitated. She hesitated. Everything inside me cracked like glass under a heel. I left the wedding in my dress. Didn't change. Didn't say goodbye. I just ran barefoot into the parking lot, hailed a cab, and sobbed the whole ride to a Motel 6 like I was the last girl on earth. I haven't seen Eli since. My phone's blowing up. Both families are demanding answers. And now, apparently, there's paperwork that confirms everything. DNA test. Birth certificate. Hospital record. And guess what? The results are coming tomorrow. Everyone's gathering. Eli. His parents. My parents. And maybe my birth mother, too. Because someone sent her an invitation. And I have no idea who. The invitation was handwritten. No return address. Just a plain ivory envelope slipped under the door of my motel room sometime during the night, while I was passed out in a cloud of cheap wine and regrets, still wearing half a false eyelash and the elastic from my updo. I opened it with shaking hands and read the words 3 times before they made any sense. You deserve the truth. We all do. Meet at the Delaney Lake House. Sunday. 4 p.m. Everyone will be there. No signature. No explanation. Just a time, a place, and the creeping realization that everyone probably meant my entire family plus the one I apparently came from. I spent the next 12 hours pacing the carpet so hard I wore a visible trail into it. I called Eli 10 times. He didn't answer. I called my mother once, hung up before it rang. And then I did what any emotionally unstable runaway bride with a potential cousin-husband situation would do. I stalked him. I searched every family member I knew whose name started with M. Aunt May. Cousin Max Mitch, Eli's dad. My brain was spinning like a damn slot machine, and it wouldn't land on anything but the worst-case scenario. What if M was my birth mom? So I drove. Slipped into the same wedding flats I'd kicked off 3 days earlier and drove 2 hours north to the lake house Eli's family used every summer. The place where he'd first kissed me on the dock under July fireworks. The place where I thought our future was sealed. I pulled up at 3:56 p.m. and almost didn't get out of the car. But then I saw them, all of them. Standing on the porch like some sort of cursed Norman Rockwell painting. My mom. My dad. Eli's parents. Eli. and next to him, a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-50s. Blonde. Too familiar. And that's when I saw it, my nose. My exact nose on her face. My stomach flipped. My skin went cold. And then Eli started walking toward me. His face was tight. Pale. Like he'd already heard something I hadn't. "Kara," he said quietly. "We need to talk." "No," I snapped. "We don't need to talk. Someone needs to explain." He looked over his shoulder. Then back at me. And what he said next almost dropped me to the dirt. "She's not your birth mom. She's mine. But she's also yours." That was the moment I blacked out. Not fainted, blacked out. Rage. Grief. Shock. I don't even remember lunging, but suddenly I was screaming, my fists pounding into Eli's chest, my voice shredding with every word. "We're siblings? Are you telling me we're actually brother and sister?" He didn't answer. But someone else did. "No," said a voice behind me. Half siblings." And when I turned around, the woman with my nose was crying. And she said, "I'm your mother, Kara. And I'm ready to tell you everything. I wish I could tell you I handled it with grace. That I stood there like a composed adult, and calmly listened to the woman who gave birth to me explain why she let me marry her son. But I didn't. I laughed. Not a cute giggle, not a shocked chuckle. I cackled. Loud, borderline hysterical, hands on my knees laughter that made everyone step back like I might rip off someone's face next. My birth mother, her name's Marilyn, by the way, because of course it is, just stood there, wringing her hands and trying not to cry harder. "I didn't know," she said. "I swear to you, Kara, I didn't know he was my son too. I didn't even know who adopted you until a year ago." "Convenient timing," I snapped, wiping a tear from my cheek. "Right around when Eli proposed. You figured, oh well, incest wedding incoming, guess I'll RSVP with a casserole." "No." I tried to stop it. "I called your mom. I begged her to tell you." That's when my mother stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare put this on me. You made the decision to disappear. You didn't want to be a mother. And you wanted to be a saint." Marilyn spat back. "But instead, you let her marry her brother." Eli dropped to sit on the porch steps with his head in his hands like the world's most broken best man. "Technically, half-brother," he muttered. I turned and stared at him so hard I think I cracked his soul in half. "Eli. Shut the hell up." Mitch, Eli's dad, or rather not his dad, was already halfway into a bottle of bourbon, muttering to himself about vasectomies and paternity tests. That's when Marilyn dropped the next bomb. I was 18. He was 22. It was a summer fling. I didn't even know Mitch had gotten me pregnant. We broke up, and I put Kara up for adoption. A few months later, I found out I was pregnant again. I kept that one. Eli. There was a pause so thick it felt like you could cut it into slices and serve it with grief gravy. "You're telling me," I said slowly, each word like a razor. "You had me. Gave me up. Then turned around and had him, and kept him?" She nodded, crying harder now. "It wasn't about you. I was scared. I was alone. With Eli I had help. I had a job. It was a different time. I don't care," I shouted. "I don't care what your sob story is. You should have told someone. Anyone. This is not something you just let happen." Eli finally looked up, eyes red. "Kara, I didn't know either. I swear on my life. I didn't know until 2 days ago. My dad took a DNA test because of that dumb ancestry app. It came back with a child match he didn't recognize. So he asked my mom? And that's when she told him everything." Mitch groaned. "Stupid Christmas gift. Should have gotten him socks." And then, because this wasn't already a nuclear emotional war zone, my dad, the one who raised me, stepped forward and dropped the quietest, most devastating line of the entire day. I always wondered why she didn't look like either of us. The wind left my lungs. No one said anything after that. We all just stood there, a tragic jigsaw puzzle of broken DNA and family lies, silently waiting for someone to flip the board and start over. But we couldn't. Because the test results were arriving in 30 minutes. And whatever truth came in that envelope was going to decide what the rest of my life would look like. The drive to the lab was silent, except for the sound of my heartbeat punching against my ribs. Everyone piled into their own cars like we were a convoy of shame heading toward the world's most awkward apocalypse. Eli drove behind me, tailing close, probably terrified I'd bolt before we got there. Honestly? I considered it. More than once. But something in me needed proof, something solid, written in ink and science, because my brain was spinning in circles and my heart didn't trust anyone's version of the truth anymore. We arrived at this gray, depressing medical office wedged between a laundromat and a vape shop. The kind of place where secrets come wrapped in manila envelopes. The receptionist barely looked up when I gave my name. "Results are ready. You can wait in room 3, she said, like we were picking up dry cleaning, not confirming if my marriage was a felony. Marilyn sat across from me, fidgeting with a tissue. My mom sat beside me, her arms crossed like she was guarding a border. Eli hovered near the door, pacing, glancing at his phone like if he stared long enough, it might undo the last week of our lives. When the doctor came in, he looked exhausted. Or maybe he just felt the second-hand shame radiating off all of us. He carried the envelope like it was a live grenade. "I understand there's some confusion regarding parentage," he began carefully. I barked out a laugh. "That's one way to put it." He sighed, slid on his glasses, and opened the envelope. Paper rustled. My stomach twisted so tight I thought I'd vomit right there on the linoleum. "DNA analysis confirms," he said slowly, eyes scanning the report, "that Kara and Eli share approximately 24.8% of their DNA. He paused. Looked up at us. "That would indicate a half-sibling relationship." My vision tunneled. My mom made a strangled noise, like she'd been punched. Marilyn started sobbing. Mitch muttered, "Jesus Christ," and buried his face in his hands. Eli whispered, "Half." Like saying it out loud made it less monstrous. I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. The sound made everyone jump. "That's it," I said. "That's all? Just half? Like it's some math problem that ruined our lives?" The doctor looked helpless. "I'm sorry, Ms. Green. I know this must be." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't you dare say hard. This isn't hard. It's hell." I stormed out. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I hit the parking lot gasping for air like a drowning person. Eli followed. Of course he did. "Kara, wait!" "Don't," I said again, but he caught my arm anyway. "I didn't know," he pleaded. "You have to believe me." I turned on him, shaking. "It doesn't matter. You're my brother. There's no fixing this." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "I still love you," he said quietly. And that was when I lost it. "Do not say that. Don't you ever say that again!" I screamed, voice echoing across the parking lot. Whatever that was, it's gone. It was fake. It was disgusting. "You're disgusting." He looked like he wanted to argue, but then his face changed. Something broke in him. He nodded once, tears spilling over, and walked away. I thought that was the end of it. But as I stood there shaking, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. "You think you know the truth, but you don't. There's more. Meet me tonight. 9 p.m. The old church by the water. Come alone." Signed again, just M, and for the first time, I realized that maybe this wasn't over. Maybe it was only just beginning. The old church by the water was the kind of place that looked haunted even on the sunniest day, and tonight, it was foggy, moonless, and absolutely horror movie coded. I pulled up at 8:56 p.m., headlights cutting through the mist like my life depended on it. Which, honestly, maybe it did. I'd spent the entire day spiraling, rereading the DNA results, fielding texts from Eli, blocked, and trying not to scream every time my mom or Marilyn tried to call. But this message, this second letter from M, had me more rattled than all of it. Because if Marilyn already dropped the whole secret half-siblings with your husband, what the hell else could there be? I parked crooked on the gravel, hard hammering, and walked toward the warped wooden door. It creaked open before I could knock. Marilyn was there. But so was someone else. A man. Late 50s. Sharp features. Familiar eyes. Mine. I see you got my message, he said, voice low and calm like we weren't standing in a church drenched in trauma. I froze. You're M? He nodded. Looked at Marilyn. She wouldn't meet my eyes. And then he said the words that took whatever sanity I had left and sawed it in half. I'm your real father, Kara. Not Mitch. Not anyone else. Me. My knees nearly gave out. What? What are you talking about? You mean Eli's not? No. He cut in. He's not your brother. Marilyn finally spoke, voice trembling. I was 18, like I told you. But it wasn't Mitch I was with. It was him. David Marks. She gestured toward the man, David, and I just stood there, blinking, trying to remember how breathing worked. But then why lie? Why any of this? David stepped forward. Because your adoptive parents were promised anonymity. Marilyn agreed not to contact you. She gave you up. And I didn't even know she'd had you until last year, when she found me again. She told me nothing. He continued. Nothing, Kara. I didn't know I had a daughter out there. When she told me, I wanted to meet you, but we weren't sure how. And then we found out who you were, and who you were with. That's why I sent the first note. He added. That's why I asked you to come here. You need to know the truth. You and Eli? You're not related. Not by blood. I just stood there, drenched in confusion, rage, exhaustion. But the DNA test. I started. Eli and Marilyn share half their DNA. David said. Because he's her son. But you share that same amount with Marilyn because she's your birth mother. You and Eli don't share DNA with each other. Marilyn nodded, crying softly. We all got tested, Kara. You and me. Eli and me. You and Eli. But the results only show shared DNA between us. Not between you two. My heart stopped. Why didn't you tell me this at the lake house? I asked. Why let me think I married my brother? Why let me run away thinking I was disgusting? Because I didn't know how you'd react. Marilyn whispered. And I thought it might be easier if you didn't go back. If you hated us both. I stepped back. So what you're saying is, I married a man I'm not related to, but you all watched me self-destruct for days without saying a word? David nodded solemnly. Yes. And I'm sorry. But I had to be sure you knew everything before you made a choice. What choice? I asked, voice shaking. Marilyn looked me in the eye for the first time all night. Whether or not you want to stay married to him. I stared at both of them, stunned. And that's when my phone buzzed again. A voicemail. From Eli. I hit play, and his voice cracked through the speaker. Kara. If you get this, I'm leaving. For good. You deserve peace. A life without all this mess. But I'll love you until I die. That part was always real. He paused. Unless you tell me to stay. I'm gone. I looked at Marilyn. At David. At the empty altar behind them. I had 24 hours to decide. Go after Eli, or let him walk out of my life forever. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my car outside the church until sunrise, staring at my phone, Eli's voicemail playing in my head on repeat like a broken lullaby. I thought about all of it, every lie, every reveal, every ruined moment twisted into something horrifying and then suddenly unhorrified again. I was emotionally whiplashed into oblivion. We weren't related. That should have been the happiest sentence of my life. So why didn't it feel like a win? I knew why. Because the love was real, but now, so was the trauma. I didn't know where he ended and the pain began. We built our foundation on landmines, and now I was supposed to just sweep up the shrapnel and say, "Okay, let's pick colors for the nursery." By 9 a.m., I was back at the lake house. He was there, packing his car. The same navy duffel he brought on our honeymoon now sat on the driveway like the last chapter of us. He saw me and froze. "I figured you wouldn't come." "I almost didn't," I said. "But I needed to see you before you disappeared forever." We stood there, in the cool morning mist, like two people who used to belong to each other in another lifetime. "Why didn't you wait?" I asked. "Why not tell me what your dad found out?" "Because I didn't know how to explain it. And I didn't want to give you false hope. I figured if you hated me, it would be easier for you to move on." "I never hated you," I said quietly. "I hated the idea of us. What I thought we were. And now?" I took a deep breath. "Now I'm furious that I lost you for a lie." He didn't speak. Just stared at me, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he blinked. "But I'm also not ready to be with you again," I said. "Not yet." His shoulders dropped, just slightly. A mix of relief and disappointment. "I need therapy. Space. Time. To figure out who I am without a scandal tattooed across my skin. And you need that too." He nodded. "I'll wait." "Don't," I said. "Live your life. Heal. If we find our way back to each other one day, fine. But don't wait." A long silence stretched between us. Then he stepped forward and pulled something out of his jacket pocket. A photo. Us on our wedding day, laughing, eyes locked on each other like nothing else existed. A version of ourselves that didn't know what was coming. "I'm keeping this," he said. "Not because of the wedding. Because of you." That smile was real. I want to remember that part. My throat closed up. I nodded. He kissed my forehead. "Goodbye, Kara." And then he got in the car and drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared. That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm living in a new apartment with no family heirlooms, no portraits, no reminders. Just me, my plants, and the quiet I never knew I needed. I'm still in therapy. Still unlearning shame. Still rebuilding trust, and myself most of all. My mom and I speak once a week. Marilyn writes letters. I haven't replied yet. Maybe one day. And Eli? He sends a postcard once a month. Never signed. Just little notes. Tried rock climbing. Didn't die. Found the best coffee shop in Portland. You'd love it. Still rooting for you. He never says, "I love you." He doesn't need to. Some loves aren't meant to be fairy tales. Some are war stories. But here I am, still standing. And that's my victory.